Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very happy to be here today to celebrate the YESFestival, and I really thank you, our delegation in Brussels, Gabriele and Caterina, and all the representative of Euregio to give us the hospitality for the first day of the meeting. This project started 3 years ago, and we have a very big challenge. But now, thanks to our good partnership, we reach all the goals and the targets of the project. So we can be here today to celebrate the results and to show you our intellectual output. Thank you, and I let the floor to Barbara.
Good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me? Not very well. Yeah? Good. On behalf of 7 partners, I want to welcome you to the final conference of our project, YESpecialist, which stands for Youth Entrepreneurial Spirit Specialists. Welcome to the YESFestival. My name is Barbara Harterink, and I work for the Vestland County Council in Norway, and I'm the project leader. Today we want to celebrate youth entrepreneurial spirit in rural Europe. The main participants in our project, the young people, they are at home now. Unfortunately, they are at school. But we will show their videos, their homemade videos, in the break. And we are going to gather them in a digital way on Zoom in 2 weeks' time. But it's important to focus on the heart, the core of our project. It is the young people, the young green entrepreneurs of the future. We have listened to them during the project, we have involved them, and we have supported them in our local rural communities. And we are ready to show you the results of 2.5 years of work, cross-sectorial, cross-border work. And we are proud of what we have reached. And it was a fun project too. It's important to have believe and have have fun actually within the project. So before coming to the results, that's good. And that is actually a thing that we maybe should say to everybody. We are recording this seminar, and there are also people following us in a digital way. So it is a webinar or a hybrid seminar. Yes. So, but before coming into our results and presenting them, I would like to give the floor to a very special guest, a young entrepreneur from Croatia. And I would like to give the floor to Eva, who will do the introduction.
Thank you, Barbara. I really have an honor to introduce you to one really nice guy coming from Croatia. His name is David Page. He is really young, but extremely successful. He is the best European organic entrepreneur declared in 2022. It was the first time for starting this award, but as a region, since he works nearby us, and as a country, we are really proud and honored to have such a young and successful entrepreneur nearby us. He is following this project, and unfortunately he is not able to be here with us since he's really busy, but he took his time and shooted a really nice motivation video for future entrepreneurs. Since he had graduated philosophy, but also video production, and he now works in organic farming, we think that this is a really nice combination to get some highlights, to be inspired, and to learn from his experience. At the moment, he produces on his 22 hectares big farm with 40 of his workers, 60 different types of agricultures. And he also runs first certified restaurant in Croatia. And I think that we should all listen carefully to his messages. Thank you.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for inviting me to be a part of this event. My name is David Page, and I run Zrno, the oldest organic farm in Croatia. What makes Zrno special is the fact that it has 4 different types of production. First, primary crop production with over 60 different varieties, mostly vegetables such as root vegetables, leafy greens, different types of salads and so on. And we also grow a lot of grains. Second, we use the vegetables from our primary production to make different types of naturally fermented products, such as sauerkraut or pickled daikon or sunchoke. And then third, we also have a bakery on the farm that makes over 50 different kinds of baked products. So we have sourdough bread, pastry, and then also to-go meals such as sandwiches and salads and so on. And then finally, we also have a vegan restaurant, which is the first and only certified organic restaurant in Croatia. It is situated in the capital city of Zagreb, and it actually really functions as a point in which all of these different types of production and all the different types of products from the farm are combined and offer the customer a really unique experience. And really, this is what is special about the farm, because throughout these 4 types of production, we have over 150 certified organic products. And for most of them, we use our own raw materials and crops. So, for example, we grow our own soybeans, which we make into tofu on the farm, and then we use that tofu in our pastry products or in the restaurant. And in this way, we can offer our customers real farm-to-table experiences. And we are very pleased to see how they respond to that and to the quality of the food that we offer.
Ja, på som webinar i 3 timmar. Vad hjälpte? Ja, som webinar i 3 timmar. Men vad hjälpte?
I knew very little about organic.
Nej, det går bra.
Fascinated by complex systems. And so I was attracted to the concept of farming as a method of working with an ecosystem towards a specific goal. And another thing that motivated me, that still motivates me, is the idea that a healthy individual is a precondition for a healthy society. And that by creating and producing high quality organic food, I can contribute to the well-being of others. This motivation really helped me to power through all kinds of challenges, which in farming are really everywhere around you. The learning curve is very steep, and almost nothing ever goes to plan as you planned in farming. And in addition, you only really, since the production cycle is so long, you only have a very limited number of times that you can try something, especially when you're trying something new. So we really had to come up with unique solutions to solve any kind of operational or production issues that we had. So, for example, in 2018, we started the project of our biointensive garden. And this is a special kind of a system for growing organic vegetables on small land areas. And we also combined this idea of biointensive garden with the idea of regenerative farming and the concept of not tilling or not disturbing the surface soil in an effort to increase its biodiversity and microbiome, and really to allow all different kinds of beneficial processes to occur without disturbance from us as a farmer. And starting this project in a year, we built the largest biointensive garden in the region with over 250 beds, which really gave us a lot of attention and a lot of opportunities to connect with other farmers and members of the community. And since then, we have hosted countless groups and institutions on the farm, schools, colleges, universities, extension services, and so on, educating and spreading knowledge about innovative organic farming methods. As a sort of culmination of all of this activity, last year in September, we were recognized for our efforts by the EU Commission, and I was given the title of the best organic farmer, which was quite an honor. But what really makes me happy, though, is to see a lot of young people becoming interested in organic farming and starting their own farms. If our work can inspire more people to do so, then I think that gives it additional purpose and meaning. And more people are becoming aware of the fact that conventional food practices can be detrimental to the health of both individuals and ecosystems. So by growing food organically and locally, we can help restore that and improve both the health of the people and the development of rural communities. And this is something that's very important to me and important to us as a business, as a farm. All of our employees on the farm are from the local community, from the nearby villages and towns. And we are really trying to keep it that way. We are really trying to have a positive impact on the local community and really build out something that has that's sustainable in the future as a business. And this is why we put so much effort and emphasis on educating young people and showing them how farming can be a deeply satisfying type of work, and how it can be something that brings a lot of fulfillment and joy. And in this way, we really see as one of our roles, we see the activity of building up and developing the rural area and the rural community. Now, as I understand, this is precisely one of the goals of the YESpecialist project. So once again, I'm truly honored to have talked to all of you, and I wish you good luck with your future projects. And yeah, I hope to see you in Croatia someday on the Zrno farm. And until then, good luck and take care.
Thank you so much, David. This gave us a lot of food for thought, I think. And this is exactly what we are talking about when we talk about the green young entrepreneurs of the future. I think it was very inspirational to hear about his vision on healthy individuals gives a healthy society. So now we have the next keynote speaker, Larry. Maybe you want to come up. And I'm just giving a small introduction, but I think that you can introduce yourself much better. But we are very glad that you are here. Thank you for coming. And you are representing Jeune, which stands for the Young Entrepreneurs Organization of the European Union. And maybe you just can give a short comment on what David said. What is the thing that you were thinking about what he was telling? Here you are, and the floor is yours.
Yes. Well, I was very impressed, and I must say it's a tough act for me to follow. I think it's a great, he's a role model, absolutely, for many others. He said that there is a lot of interest now among young people in organic farming. Maybe some youth from the city will be willing to go to the countryside and start a farm. And he made a very interesting point, I thought, about collaborating with other farmers, and that's something that I would like to address in my presentation. So I'll just start by saying a few words about Jeune, and then I'll share some thoughts, personal thoughts about entrepreneurial ecosystems. This way? No. No problem. Pointing it to you?
There. It's working, it's working.
Ah, okay, great. Okay, so I'm representing the Young Entrepreneurs Organization of the European Union. Obviously, I'm not a young entrepreneur. I'm on the advisory board of Jeune. Jeune is a non-profit association founded here in Brussels in 1994. And we are a federation of national associations of young entrepreneurs, both in EU member states and neighboring countries. And together, through our membership, we represent over 1.6 million young entrepreneurs in 20 countries. These are our member associations. I don't think you can read them, but there's, I think, 23. And we have a rotating presidency, and at the moment it's Portugal that is holding the presidency. So our mission is to be the voice of young entrepreneurs at EU level and internationally. Obviously, we want to promote youth entrepreneurship. We advocate at the EU for policies that support youth entrepreneurship. We seek to strengthen global relations, not just Europe, but around the world. We have strategic partnerships with, for example, the OECD, with the European Economic and Social Council. We're members of the European Youth Forum. Our activities, well, we organize business conferences, trade missions, networking events, and we try to fight youth unemployment by creating new businesses and new jobs. Just very quickly, this is our 2022 event calendar. So you can see we've organized a lot of events or participated in events such as today. Our 2023 calendar, including today. We also are involved in social and charitable projects. So our Portuguese president has done work in Africa, planting trees, providing medical supplies. And we've also tried to help the crisis in Ukraine. We've delivered several truckloads of food supplies to Poland, and then from Poland to Ukraine, working with our partner led by a young Spanish entrepreneur, Hambre Cerro. So that's a quick overview of Jeune, and now I'd like to talk about entrepreneurship ecosystems. And I think obviously two of the main components are, first of all, the entrepreneur, and then, and this I found is part of the YESpecialist methodology, the first step in establishing an ecosystem is identifying stakeholders. And then, of course, you want to engage those stakeholders, all of the different parties who are needed to support the entrepreneur. I would like to add a third component here, and that is trust. So it's great to identify and engage the stakeholders, but they have to be willing to work together. They have to trust each other. They have to trust the entrepreneur. The entrepreneur has to be able to trust them. And once we have that, then we can really speak about a community around the entrepreneur, which together forms the entrepreneurship ecosystem. Now, just to speak a little bit more about this idea of trust, I would like to take an example which is very, very different from a rural ecosystem. It's probably the best known, biggest entrepreneurship ecosystem in the world, Silicon Valley. And some years ago, I met an innovation expert, venture capitalist, a real Silicon Valley guru, Victor Huang, who wrote a book about how to create the next Silicon Valley. And he called his book The Rainforest, because he's comparing the ecosystem to a rainforest, which you cannot cultivate it. You have to let it grow sort of organically, but you have to follow certain rules. So he established these 7 rules, and I'm just going to focus on number 3, trust and be trusted. And this is what he has to say. Rainforests, in other words, ecosystems, cannot thrive without trust among strangers. Business must be based on trust. The absence of trust has a high cost for the whole system. So this is especially true in an area like Silicon Valley, a huge metropolitan area with millions of people, or here in Brussels, a city of 1 million, where so many people come from all over Europe, working for organizations that are defending certain interests. They're lobbyists, they're political parties, NGOs, trade associations. Very, very difficult to establish trust among these people coming from different countries, different cultures. On the other hand, in a rural area, I think there is that trust. It's a small, tight-knit community where people already know each other, maybe for generations. Families have known each other, have worked together, lived together. So that, I think, is a real strength of rural ecosystems, is that trust already exists. Another rule that I would like to cover, number 7, pay it forward. What does that mean? If someone helps you, you feel gratitude towards that person. You feel that you somehow obligated to return that help to them. Pay it forward is not like that. Pay it forward means that you're not going to try to help that person to return the favor. You're going to help someone else. And that creates sort of a virtuous cycle of people helping each other. And that is really intrinsic in the Silicon Valley culture, the pay it forward culture, where complete strangers will be willing to help each other. A starting entrepreneur can just pick up the phone, call a successful entrepreneur, business person, venture capitalist, and speak to that person and get advice. I'm going to skip this video just in the interest of time. This is an example of Fairchild Semiconductor, which was one of the very first tech companies to start in Silicon Valley in the 50s. You'll notice certain lack of diversity in the photo. Hopefully that has evolved since then. But what's important is what they say here. We would get a call from one of our competitors. They would have a problem and they would ask us for help. We would drop what we were doing, we would go there, lend a hand, we would work and fix the problem. We were all in it together. That's pretty remarkable, you know, competitors actually helping each other. But it's not pure altruism, it's really because they see a benefit for everyone. If they solve this problem, they solve it for everyone, and that helps the whole industry, the whole ecosystem. And they know that they can count on getting help when they will need it. So that is pretty unique to Silicon Valley compared to other, you know, big metropolitan areas, regions, cities, etc. But it's not really unique in rural areas. There's an African proverb that says, it takes a village to raise a child. So I would say it takes a village to raise a barn, and that's known as barn raising. So you see here, typically a family farm, they need to have a barn, but they can't build it by themselves. So they call upon their neighbors, the other farmers, to come and help. And they will come and help unpaid, strictly voluntarily, and spend hours, days to build that barn, because they know that when it's their turn, that they need help, that they can count on their neighbors. So this is something that already exists for a long time. I looked it up on Wikipedia, and I see that in Norway it's known as dugnad. In Spain, in the region of Asturias, it's known as andecha, I think that's right. This idea of collaboration. And so we have in these rural areas trust and pay it forward. So this willingness to support each other, which are really important in an ecosystem. What's missing, on the other hand, is access to certain resources. So a rural area obviously may not have locally access to technology, to business support, to suppliers, clients, all kinds of advice. So how does one overcome that challenge? Well, that is why I think it is extremely important for all young entrepreneurs, but especially in rural areas, to be able to count on mentorship. And so we have a project to establish a mentorship program among young entrepreneurs in Europe. And one thing we've learned from the COVID crisis, and today is a perfect example since some people are following us online, is that you can have a mentorship relationship not necessarily physically located close by. It can be over distance. You can have a good relationship where you connect with your mentor, let's say once a week on a Zoom call. And so that really overcomes the geographical barriers that young entrepreneurs can face in rural areas. Going back very quickly to Silicon Valley, Steve Jobs was himself helped by a mentor. The mentor was Bob Noyce, one of the founders of Intel. And here you see the two of them together. And this is when Larry Page, the founder of Google, called up Steve Jobs. And that was his reaction. He realized that he had been helped when he was young, so he agreed to help Larry Page. So this is how it worked. Rob Noyce from Intel helps Steve Jobs, founder of Apple. Steve Jobs helps Larry Page, founder of Google. Larry Page helped Marissa Mayer, who was one of the first Google employees and who later became CEO of Yahoo. So, mentorship works in Silicon Valley. It can work in Europe. And this is proof that it works. Some years ago, Gallup did a survey in 83 countries, and they compared people who had access to a mentor to those who did not have access to a mentor. And they asked them what was, if they were planning to start a business. And so the result of the survey shows that in the EU, people who did say that they had access to a mentor were 5 times more likely to say that they planned to start a business than those who did not have access to a mentor. So that's good news. The bad news, which as you can see from that chart, European Union, the number of people who are wanting to start a business is extremely low. So it's 1% for those who don't have access to a mentor, 5% for those who do. Okay, 5 times more, but 5% is still very, very low. So we clearly have work to do, and that is one of the missions that Jeune has set for itself. So that's it. Thank you very much. Feel free to get in touch if you'd like to pursue the discussion. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Larry. This was very inspiring, and you were talking about the strength of cooperation and having trust in each other. Well, we have time for one question. If there is somebody here in the audience who want to ask something to Larry. Yes. Maybe we can... Please, your name, where you're from.
Yes, I'm Virginie Lausson. I work here in Brussels for Hub Brussels. It's a business Brussels support agency. I'm just astonished that there is no, I don't know how to say, a member here in Belgium. How does it work? How is it possible to start a network in a country to be...
So we are a federation of existing associations. So the national associations contact us if they want to join, and we are happy to welcome them. It's unfortunate that we are actually legally based in Brussels, but we don't have a Belgian partner. One issue is the fact that, as you know, everything in Belgium is always sort of regionalized. So there would probably have to be a Walloon Association of Young Entrepreneurs of Brussels and a Flemish one. But if there are any existing organizations that would like to join or simply collaborate with us, we would be delighted to expand our network, especially here in Belgium.
Thank you. Larry, just a quick question from my side. You mentioned that there are not that many people who want to start a business. You showed some figures. What is the main reason for this? Do you have or 2 reasons maybe?
Well, I think this is a question that has been studied and asked so many times. I've been to so many conferences organized by the European Commission and others, and there's always sort of the same reasons that are invoked, which is a fear of failure and the stigma of failure. So it's not just that people feel embarrassed to admit that they tried to start a business and it failed. It's the fact that they will then have problems finding a job because people will look at their CV and say, well, what did you do for the last 2 years? You started a business and it failed. You know, well, clearly you're not very competent. Or the bank will say, well, you know, we're not going to lend you money because, you know, clearly, you know, you're too much of a risk. Whereas in the US, for example, that kind of experience is actually valued. And they'll say, you learned from your mistakes, or may not even be a mistake, it was just bad luck, but you learn something, and then you will be able to use that experience to work for us or for your next venture. So that mindset has to really change. And then in terms of policy, we also have to make it much easier. I think the Commission does what it can, but of course it doesn't have complete control over national policies. I thought it was unfortunate, for example, that the EU, which had put in place a funding mechanism called the SME instrument, which made it much easier for an entrepreneur to obtain some startup funding just by filling out a very short application form, unlike typical EU projects that are like 90 pages. And then after some years, even though it was very successful, a lot of demand for it, they decided to stop because they felt that it was duplicating similar programs that existed at national level. So yeah, that's, I guess those would be the two main reasons, the culture, the mindset, and the lack of policy support. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Wave him a hand. Thank you. Introduction to the YESpecialist project. I want to start with our partnership. As Larry was into, it's important with cooperation also across borders. We are just trying to get this work now. Yeah, there it is. Yes. So our project has been supported by the EU. This is a strategic partnership under the Erasmus Plus program for youth. And all these regions here are part of the partnership. We have 5 different regions, 1 municipality, and 1 organization in Brussels, as you can see here. Our project logo, as you can see it down there, was, by the way, designed by a young graphic designer. We had a competition, a logo designing competition, and it was Eva Maria Gomez from Asturias who won the logo design contest. So I want to give her all honor. We have been enjoying her work, and as we wanted this project to be a bottom-up project with, as a very central target group, the young people themselves. We started to look into our challenge, how to keep and attract young people into rural areas. Here's a picture of Norway, but we have many beautiful pictures of all regions. This is a typical place where it's hard to keep the young people living there. There is urbanization, and we want to be that the rural areas are more attractive for young people. And we have seen the solution. There it is. In active young citizens in rural areas, which are more attractive for young people. So we wanted to involve and empower young people, help them to find or create an active role in their local community by starting businesses or taking initiatives in a local area. We wanted to strengthen the entrepreneurial mindset of young people, and we wanted them to take action and to help us to lay the path into the future. And it is the young people who have the good ideas, green ideas, as we also could see that David had. They have the future in their minds, and we adults should listen more to the future entrepreneurs. So what we have done is we have gathered good practices on youth entrepreneurship. We strengthened entrepreneurial skills education and trainings by making training material. And we built strong local ecosystems of good helpers. It is about the mentoring, but also helping those who really would like to take initiatives, to start up businesses, to help them. And we call these good helpers the YESpecialists. The starting point for our project is the entrepreneurial competences framework, which is designed by the EU. And it is a reference framework to explain what is meant by an entrepreneurial mindset. We live in a rapidly changing society where it is essential that everyone has the capacity to act upon opportunities and ideas, to work with others, to manage dynamic careers and shape the future for the common good. To achieve these goals, we need people, teams, organizations with an entrepreneurial mindset in every aspect of life. As you can see here, this is the EntreComp wheel, and it's divided in 3 key areas in a total of 15 different skills. And what you actually were talking about, the failures, it is also part of it. I have to look upon, but I think also, well, taking risks, and I think also taking risk and accepting that there may be failures during the processes. It's also part of the EntreComp. So as you can see, there is the 3 key areas, ideas and opportunities like creativity and ethical sustainable thinking, resources, mobilizing people, the finances, for example, and into action, which is the planning part and learning through experience. Working with this EntreComp wheel, we talked more and more about the EntreComp flower. It is a very beautiful flower, isn't it? And as you know, flowers need water, they need nutrition. So this is what we have seen as our mission, watering the EntreComp flower. And this year is also the European Year of Skills. And we will now show you our 3 project results, which are all into the strengthening the EntreComp skills. So I would like to give the floor to the first intellectual output which we made, and it is Charlotte who is going to give the presentation. So please.
Hello, thank you very much. Perfect. In partnership with us at IRLAL, the European Association of Regions and Local Authorities for Lifelong Learning. So if we Perfect. So why the map? This is a best practice repository that was presented in the form of a map, which is available on our website for the project, which is YESpecialist.eu. The idea was a community-based repository where cases were selected based on the involvement of young people with a focus on a bottom-up approach, and projects which had an impact in the local and rural area that showed innovative aspects of entrepreneurship, and that also had a potential for sustainability and durability. And there are currently 36 best practices on our map. And we will show you in a moment a more interactive form, but essentially in the repository, there are fact sheets which will tell you about the information of the entrepreneurship activity, with links to media, about the funding, the partnerships, so you can really gain a sense of what kind of entrepreneurship options there are for youth in Europe and what our partners have gathered in our regions. Now, normally it's not particularly fun to present maps, so we made a video to try to make it a little bit more interactive and to help you understand how it works a little bit better.
Okay, next step. Barbara spoke before on the flower, the Entrecomp framework flower, but before to have the flower, we need to have the seeds and a soil where we have to put these seeds. And the soil was the intellectual output 2 with the final flower, that is the toolkit. We started 3 years ago, and the first step of this intellectual output was about the needs of the young people and the vet teacher and the youth workers as well. So we decided to use 2 different methodologies to scouting these needs. We have survey for Trentino, Tuscany region, Varazdin, and Asturia about the entrepreneurial mindset on the Entrecomp framework and trainees' learning needs. And for Vestland and Ringobing, we decided to use photo voice methodology because they prefer to do some photo and video about their territory. The questionnaire was made by our researcher and technician, and the main blocks were four: entrepreneur's image and rule, local area question, entrepreneurial mindset, and demographic. We have a very good result because we collected more than 330 questionnaires in Tuscany region, Trentino, Asturia, and Varaždin in Croatia. And on the basis of this survey, we did the next step. The next step was the syllabus, based also on the photo voice of Vestland and Denmark. So the syllabus was based on Dublin descriptor, and we used a scientific methodology to develop this syllabus. The first aspect of the syllabus was the intended learning outcome. Then we thought also about teaching and learning activities, the assessment, of course, the Dublin descriptor, and then in the end, the competence connected to Entrecomp framework. The structure of this syllabus should be respect some aspect. So define the aim, the target group, the methods to be used. The thematic focus of the syllabus were two. So we have STEM competence, like digital, manufacturing, and energy, and then tourism, agriculture, retail, creative industries, and agritourism as well. And these two topics were also the topics of two workshops. One in Trento about STEM competence that we did on May 2022, and the second topic about tourism, agriculture, was the theme of the second workshop that we had in Varaždin on the October of the last year. So far, we have 6 syllabus. One from Asturia on design thinking and project-based learning. Ringobing develop the syllabus Become Your Own Boss. Trento develop a syllabus about problem-based learning method. Vestland, Myself in 5 years. Varaždin, Free Curricula, Youth Entrepreneurship, and Tuscany region, Entrepreneurship Learning for Young People has been structured in 8 phases. The syllabus is different for all the region. So, for example, in Varaždin, the Croatia partner decided to structure a basic curricula on the frame of Entrecomp, because they don't have so deep mindset in entrepreneurship. So they need to start from the basic of entrepreneurship. In Vestland, they decide to use a different methodology because they already have such a type of education in the school. So they decide to do like a dragon methodology to think what the young people could do in the next 5 years. So it's an exercise on imagination, but also on the steps of the future for young people. And then we have the step 3. This syllabus should be concretely developed in a real local ecosystem with a bottom-up approach. So we engage young people in all the region of the project. And in every region, the young people have a coach and a mentor that help the young people to develop the syllabus. And the final result is the curricula and the toolkit. The toolkit is a guide that is very useful for educator, vet teacher, but also for the young people to develop a youth entrepreneurship in rural area. The toolkit has a different part. So we have the different syllabus of the partnership, and then we have a description of the methodology. So for the trainers, they can use the introduction of each chapter to understand how to use this syllabus in their local ecosystem. And then there are also practical examples on how the young people develop these activities. So we have calendar, we have an explanation of all the parts of the syllabus, and this is the curricula. In the end of the toolkit, we have some example of Fab Lab. We have an explanation on what is a Fab Lab, and also practical and real example of a Fab Lab, because in our local ecosystem in Trentino, we have a local ecosystem of Primiero that developed in the summer of 2021 a Fab Lab with the ABCD model. So it was a very good example of collaboration in rural area, because all the people of this rural area collaborate each other to do a requalification of a childhood school, and they create a Fab Lab for young people and also for the young people of the region next door to Trentino. The main outputs are methodology used by partner and stakeholder for implementation of pilot project in rural area. And so far we have more than 6 pilot projects for each partner. An introductory part on pedagogy method used. Okay, and then in the last part of the toolkit, we have also a guideline on how to do workshop on STEM competence and agriculture competence, right by Tuscany region. Here we have some curricular example on problem-based learning activity. For example, one of our local ecosystem had to help a local entrepreneurial to a local business to create a plan to upgrade his farm from the social farm model. So we have a normal farm, and the farmer would like to change the aim of his farm with became a social farm. And the young people in 1.5 months helped this farmer to change and to find solution for this changing. Here we have the calendar of the activity of the young people. So for example, they have to do working group, design thinking activity, use Canvas or other digital instrument. And in our case, the young people decide to do physical and online meeting, because the young people of the rural area sometimes they have problem to meet each other because they have this long distance, and sometimes they have also not a very good bus transport, so they have to find solution, and they decide to do online meeting, and these methods work very well. I let the floor to Iva that spoke a little bit about Vestland curricula.
Thank you, Luca. I will just now give you a short information how the curriculum was produced in Vestland County. It is a north region in Croatia, and we have started, as Luca stated, with a survey. We made an online survey with around 150 high school students, and we got a really good feedback. We asked them what kinds of knowledges do they like when it comes to starting an entrepreneurship initiative, where do they feel they need to be more straightened up, what kind of knowledges would be useful for them. And after going through their answers, we have produced a free curriculum. We call it a free curriculum because it is made in a very easy and open way. It is completely flexible because we were aware that problems when it comes to starting an entrepreneurship initiative won't disappear with just one generation. That's why our curriculum goes in more details, and it can be completely adapted according to needs of groups or ages or people, and it is really easy to use it for all WET teachers and also youth workers, because it has all the necessary equipment prescribed. It also has all listed in details, and it can be easily followed. In our case, we split it in five parts. These are the skills that people in Croatia miss. As Lucas said, some regions here are on the higher levels when it comes to entrepreneurship spirit, but we provided within this curriculum a basic setup workshop that includes informal methods to boost primarily business communication and human resources topics, then also business ethics and sustainable business, then financial literacy and budgeting, also creativity, initiative, and some basic entrepreneurship skills, but also business management and promotion. So we did the testing during 2 months. Last year, we had around 76 people that participated. They worked in their own WET schools in really rural part of our region. We work within the agriculture school, we did the economic school, and also the other WET school. And we work with students who study for agriculture occupation, also for economic occupation, and they work with their regular teacher. So teachers, but using informal methods of learning. So for instance, our future salespeople, they learn about how to use creativity in business by using some case study methods or post-it notes method. They also use a lot of mental maps to be more familiar with promotional activities. Then on the other hand, we work with agriculture, occupation, future farmers and florists by using informal methods, storm of ideas, but also by using a guided tour. Our students watched some video that covered some 4 important topics when it comes to ordering process. And in our schools, we regularly give it's more ex-cathedra approach. And by participating with these workshops, 87% of them said that they were extremely satisfied with this type of work. And that's why we will continue to use this curriculum in our schools. We think this is the best way to ensure the sustainability of this project. And the feedback of the students who participate with this our workshop tells us that we really did a good job. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Luca and Eva. We go to the next slide, which is about the third guide to setting up a local ecosystem. Actually, our good contact from Denmark should be here today. Because of sickness, he's not here. I'm also one of the, Vestland was one of the coordinators. But I think that in Denmark, in Ringkøbing-Skjern, they have been working very well with setting up a local ecosystem. And they already started a little bit, a month before, and they have been ahead of many of us. Setting up and maintaining local ecosystems is crucial in order to keep and attract young talents to the rural and mountain areas of our regions. Depopulation and labor shortage of certain competencies and educational backgrounds are real challenges in these rural areas, and they have a negative impact. Local ecosystems of young entrepreneurs plays an important role in coping with the challenges that we all face. Even though local ecosystems are different and might vary a lot, and that is what we have seen in our partnership, we have different models of local ecosystems. We have to adapt to the local reality. But we have tried to make a 5-step guide of starting up and maintain also a local ecosystem. Every ecosystem is not identical, but nevertheless, it's possible to describe a methodology which grabs the variations of ecosystems. So this guide is is helped by plenty of examples of ecosystems and ways of organizing ecosystems. So we have tried to make a 5-step guide, which and some of the steps can be repeated, and we feel that this can be used in many ways. It is not only starting up for youth entrepreneurship, but also in other ways of cooperation on a local level. We have made a website for this, and because of lack of time, I don't think we are going to show you everything what is on the website, but I just go through the 5 steps. So it is about the first step, identifying local stakeholders, then mapping the situation and gathering youth input. The second step is also quite important, and we sometimes we can jump into conclusions and activities too early. So really mapping the situation and getting the good contact with young people, getting the bottom-up feedback, input from young people to the local ecosystem is very crucial. Then start up your local ecosystem, implement your activities, and finally, 5, make your ecosystem sustainable, which is quite hard sometimes, because then you are depending on some local enthusiasts, which may disappear again, and how to make this continuously, make it a strong network. I think Larry was into that. Pay it forward. There should be a sort of process of making young people the ones who can mentor the younger ones again, and to keep the good organic cycle in your ecosystem. We have a very nice video which is made by the business sector in Ringkøbing-Skjern in Denmark. You can see it on the website. We also have made a video of how the schools can be linked to the ecosystem and the students. So we have the video of a teacher who has been teaching entrepreneurial competencies in a participative way. So with active students, not just teaching theories, but letting them really try learning by doing. I think that is very interesting. And what we have seen in, for example, the ecosystem in Norway is that the young people say, well, show us the local businesses around us to inspire us. So that is what 2 of our local ecosystems in Vestland, in 2 different rural areas, have been working on. And there is this teaching material, myself in 5 years, is based on that. So they have been working on this through the subjects Norwegian and social studies. They've been working with Entrecomp. And I think that is the whole core of this. Entrepreneurial competencies is everywhere. And we should not only think that it is about starting up businesses, but it is about mastering life too. My last slide, learning points. It is important to let the young people define their project and come up with and carry out their dream product. Municipal and regional policies or strategies should support entrepreneurship, and the local ecosystem can be very helpful in matter of building up and maintaining local ecosystems. So this is also the top-down approach. We start with the bottom-up approach from the young people, but we also need a good youth strategy to make things work, to have a good structure for it. For building a sustainable local ecosystem representation by the municipality, it can be very beneficial in terms of keeping continuity in in meetings and taking care of practical but important matters, such as applications and reservations. Therefore, it is important to make clear roles and tasks in the ecosystem. And what is also very important is that, well, that is something that we experienced in Norway, that you have to be very careful to find out who should coordinate a local ecosystem. We have tried schools to be the coordinators, which is not a very natural role for schools. Schools can be part of a local ecosystem that, for example, the municipality has a better position to coordinate and lead. So be careful also with finding one of the stakeholders that is in the best position to coordinate and drive this ecosystem forward. Good experiences can sometimes be carried out on a large scale and even more effective. Just keep in mind the context. And this is all about, well, take a step-for-step approach and build with some bricks and make it bigger. We have the 5 steps. They are on the website, but we have them also here in QR codes. And they link directly to some attachments that we have gathered in our partnership. We are still gathering, actually, because it is a process, and we are still working. We are now going into our last month of the project, but we are not quitting this at all. We are continuing gathering good, trying to inspire other regions and municipalities. So we soon go into a break, and you can have a look at the QR codes. So we invite you now to a short break. in which you will have the opportunity to view a video of various youth testimonials from those who were involved in the project. So we take a 15 minutes break. Thank you.
Hi everybody, I'm Federico. I'm from Montamiata in the southern of Tuscany. I'd like to give you something about my experience in YESpecialist, and in November I had the possibility to visit Varazdin in Croatia. It was my first time in Croatia, and the first time also to speak about my experience like a young entrepreneur, because I'm working in the field of digital communication. I helped the local activities to improve their communication on the social media, website, etc. And that opportunity in Varazdin gave me the opportunity, the possibility to understand and to discover new experience all around Europe, and this was very important for all my my business. So thank you again to YESpecialist, and good luck and good work for everybody. Bye, ciao ciao.
Hi, my name is Giorgio Guerrini. I'm 18 years old and I live in Santa Fiora, a small village in Montamiata. I study at the Economic Technical Institute. It was not easy to talk to other people in English, but with a little effort and a bit of the embarrassment, I managed it. This taught me how important it is to meet other people of different cultures. And I would like to thank my level companions and the Tuscany region for the opportunity given to me. Bye.
Hello to everybody, my name is Luca Nalejnicu. I'm Romanian, but I always lived in Italy. And my trip in Croatia started with Georgia, Francesca, Nancy, and Federico. And it was for me the first time I found myself obligated to talk in English. This made me some embarrassment, but I'm still happy. In this experience, I have the opportunity to visit Varazdin, a historical Croatian town, and this experience perhaps taught me to be more curious, to discover new things, and with this, goodbye to everybody.
Hey guys, we are two guys from Denmark, not Sweden. This is Bennas and I'm Niklas. What did we learn about this trip, Bennas?
The things was that you get to see another entrepreneurship than what you are normally used to. Like for example, the entrepreneurship in Denmark is completely different than it is in Croatia. In Croatia? Croatia, yeah. When you see the new entrepreneurship, you can kind of replicate it and then you can use it to yourself, and that was something we could use.
I think I learned personally about the mindset of building a business, because if you don't have the mindset with you, you can't build a business.
One of the key learnings I've found out is that it's very important to create some kind of a system. So when you have built your system, it will become much more easier to work in this business, because like some kind of a skeleton you just can work from, if that makes sense.
Did you discover a new local or EU level initiative?
We learned that in Croatia it's a lot independent, and you need to get your own shit together.
exactly. That was very inspiring for us to hear because, yeah, to us it's normal to get help to start your own business, and yeah.
That's a lot different in Croatia. We would like to say thank you to YESpecialists for giving us this opportunity to go to Croatia and actually look at the entrepreneurship over there, so we are greatly thankful for that.
And we will take this with us in the future because we learned so much about this project. We'll see you soon. Again, we're not from Sweden, we're from Denmark.
Hello! We are students at Odda High School and we have chosen to study entrepreneurship and business development.
We live in Ullensvang municipality and there are many job opportunities here, and we have been so lucky to go into entrepreneurship. I've gotten the chance to explore a lot of job opportunities.
Since we are studying entrepreneurship, we got to explore a day of work in our society. And you guys, you went to Boliden.
Yeah, we were lucky to visit Boliden, which is one of the large factories here in Odda.
Boliden is responsible for a lot of the jobs we have in Odda, so it was very educational and fun to see what a job they offer for us in general studies.
I spent the day with the school health service and I got to see how they work with to maintain the students' health.
And I went to the primary school and spent a whole day with the kids, and I explored how it is to be a teacher, and I learned how important it is to have educated teachers.
This was a very fun and educational experience.
We hope more teachers will take this video as an inspiration to use this education method at their own schools.
What's your name?
My name is Tobias.
My name is Pietro.
What's your title, position, occupation?
I am a student of YEST High School and I attending in Technological Institute in Tirol di Trento.
I'm a student in Technological Institute in YEST in Tirol di Trento.
Who you got involved in the YESFestival project? Was there a particular challenge for your region?
I was informed by the school and by the secretary of the school. In this project there was a challenge where we have to work with a industry.
I was informed of this project by school and my teacher.
What did you do in the project?
We create a PowerPoint and a fake website for this industry, and it talk about bicycles.
I create a PowerPoint with my group for exposition.
Welcome back after the break. And now we start the round table, and the topic is creating and sustaining youth entrepreneurship. More than ever, Europe is going to need the young green entrepreneurs of the future. And we need to strengthen the entrepreneurial mindset, as there are lots of challenges ahead of us. And I really hope that the young people can help us adults to find the good path forward. I have here 4 experts on youth entrepreneurship, and the first thing I would like to ask, just a quick name presentation. So maybe Marion, you can start, just your name and your organization, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Marion Picot, the Secretary General of the European Council of Young Farmers, SIJA.
Yes, Francesca Torlone from Italy, University of Siena, just moved to Florence, so from the university academic area.
Youth Office, Province of Trento.
Virginie Lausson, Yet Young Entrepreneurs of Tomorrow, coordinated by Hub Brussels, the Brussels Business Support Agency.
Thank you. So now the mic can go back to Marion, and we would like to start with small presentations. And we have asked the 4 people here, how do you work with entrepreneurship and young people? And do you have a special, a main challenge that you work with in your organization? So please, Marion, can you start?
Yes, with pleasure. So SIJA is representing young farmers, which means farmers that are below the age of 40 years old. We have 33 member organizations, and they are coming from 22 member states in the EU and 2 associate countries, which are the United Kingdom and Serbia. And we do have a long history with youth entrepreneurship. We were created in 1958. And our main mission is to ensure that those young people who are willing to become farmers or are already farmers, they get the good living and working conditions. So we do this through support to policy reform, we do this through projects, but we do this most importantly through the network by gathering every month young farmers from all across Europe and discussing the topics that are at the core of their needs and challenges. So something very interesting, and that is also serving the general context. We know there is a demographic issue in agriculture since decades. But it is only early 2000s that the EU has made this a preoccupation. And today, you only have 6.5% of farm managers below the age of 35 years old. More or less, if you look at the age pyramid, it means that in the next 15 years, you will have 1/3 of the EU farming population that will be retiring. So we are confronted to this. And more specifically, what we have seen in SIJA is that you have more or less 5 challenges. The first one is finance. Finance because agriculture is perceived as a very risky sector. It's highly capital intensive, which means that if you want to set a business, we're talking most of the time of millions of euros because you have to buy an existing farm or create it from scratch, which is very expensive. And in doing so, you are confronted to a massive issue that is related to the fact that young farmers, they are 2 to 3 times more likely to have their loan application rejected by the banks. This is the data we have from the pre-COVID era. And the main reasons for this, you could categorize them in 3 levels. The first level is simply the perception of risks, the fact that you are a young person, you want to start a business in a sector where you do have a lot of risks, you have more and more climate adverse events, higher frequency, you have emergence of certain pests and diseases. So especially in livestock, over the last years, there have been a lot of those issues. And also, the markets themselves are very volatile. I mean, the pandemic, the outbreak of the war in Ukraine have made it even more complex to have a very stable situation. The second element is the fact that banks say that some of the business plans are inadequate. This is where you go to the educational principle. This is where you need to train the young people setting a business in agriculture to come up with a business plan that takes into account the risks, that take into account the investments that they will be required to do, and also how they will install themselves into the farming ecosystem. Will they cooperate with other farmers? Will they go into cooperatives? Will they sell to supermarkets or directly to the consumer? So all of those choices that need to be evaluated depending on the farm that you have and the plan that you have, the aspiration. And the third reason of that difficult access to investment is simply the lack of expertise of financial institutions. So historically in Europe, you had a certain number of banks that were very specialized in agriculture. And of course, because the demographics have decreased and because it is less present, you do have less expertise than before on what it is farming. But farming today is very different from farming in the 60s, right? We all know farmers that are part-time, or they have agritourism. They have a very diversified farm. They have several types of productions. So to know what agriculture is something very important as well for all those around the farmers. So this is one of the key aspects. And the second aspect is clearly linked to knowledge and education. And we talked earlier about the importance of cooperation. And our idea in CIJA is to promote generational renewal, but we need to do this with all generations. So pretty much when you're talking about entrepreneurship in agriculture, you're not simply talking about what it is to set up a business. You're also talking about the previous generations that have trouble to find people to take over the farm. You're talking about the fact that most often they will work long after the retirement. And you're talking about many intergenerational conflicts that can happen. Because the reality of today is that it's a little over 60% of the farming population that relies only on farm experience. So you are a young farmer, you go training, you go work on different types of farms, and then you are confronted to that moment where you are taking over an existing farm, in the family or not. And the previous generations has a very strong view on how the farm should be. And the young person that comes is really confronted to a lot of frustration because they are out of the box, they have that business mindset, and they arrive in an existing environment where they kind of need first to prove themselves, and second, to push for the changes to make the business more sustainable and viable. So the social aspect is very important. What we're trying to do is really to make sure that those farmers who have worked their entire life will be able to pass over the farm, and while doing so, get good conditions. Because today, retirement in agriculture is misery. So the young people we represent, they look at their parents, they look at their grandparents, they have worked for 40 years on the farm, or they look at farming in general because they come from outside, and they see the low retirement. Of course, they're not going to want to set up a business in agriculture if they see that. They see the image of a sector in which the income is lower than average, so they don't want to go to farming. They think that farming is that old idea with the straw hats, with being in the fields on your knees. But this is all about the symbols and the representation that they are having of it. So those are some of the challenges. We could, of course, go very deep into it. What we're doing to reply to them is really gathering practices from one member state to another, one country to another. We say, okay, we having that system in our country to support young farmers setting up a business that could work maybe for you. There's also a lot of policy action, of course, because startup support is available to farmers, but often you apply to it and it comes after years. It's also about projects. We're also giving educational platforms. We've done a lot of projects related to mapping financial opportunities, training people on business skills, on how to do your marketing, how to do your storytelling around your activity. So all of those activities are kind of coming together. And that gives you a bit of the main idea of what SIJA is about.
Thank you very much, Marion. Afterwards, we will posing some questions. Francesca, you want to give your presentation?
Yes. Okay, my presentation, while it is trying to be functional, is about just few slides, or 3 or 4 slides about the challenges for higher education to support entrepreneurship for our students. And I took the opportunity of this seminar in order to, I guess I should put it like here. Yes. I took the opportunity just to share with you some reflections, some also inputs that are guiding us as higher education in trying to innovate what we are trying to offer to our students to improve their entrepreneurship. Now, I refer to some of the most famous young and old entrepreneurs from Italy. Maybe you recognize, you can see Armani and Ferrero and of course Berlusconi, but some others that are younger, and you can see their face on the top. If you go into their biography or curricula, you can see that none of them, just one of the young people and 2 of the old people, but mostly they are not they did not have any higher education. So I was wondering, is higher education, is the education school giving some sort of support and why they are failing if these big entrepreneurs that are still having a key role in our economic life did not have the necessity to go on and study. But also if I look at the international big entrepreneurs, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, they quitted university degree. Larry Page was one of the fewest that was reaching his bachelor, but most of the other biggest international entrepreneurs did just break their higher education career in order to go on with some other things that were pushing them to be very successful entrepreneurs on a worldwide. So if I look at some data, this GES international research that was dated 2021, so it was also considering the pandemic problematic situation, we see that entrepreneurs is affecting few people, and the few people that are going to be entrepreneurs are going to be entrepreneurs after at least 5, but even more years, the completion of their higher education studies. So it means that soon after they finish their education, none of them, or very few people, something like 10 or 13% of young people are trying to set up their own business. So numbers are very low in this field. And so if it is like this, I was thinking about what higher education, but also the school system is providing to our students that can be correlated somehow to the success or to the failure of these systems in order to promote and to support entrepreneurship. In one of these studies, dated 2021, there are the results stating that, findings stating that there is, it seems not to be a strong correlation between what is being taught at the school system and in higher education, like economy, managerial skills, business law, corporate law, and so on. They are not strictly related to what people are doing after that, meaning that if you look at the data of people graduated in business management, You will see that on an international and also national level. I was looking at the data in Italy. Very few people graduated in business management are going to set up their own business soon after the completion, the end of the higher education, but also in a very wide perspective. So if this is the panorama as these data are showing us, I wonder what does entrepreneurship come from then, because there are successful entrepreneurs all over the world. So I took this transnational concept that is being studied in the last year, that means non-linear pathways, meaning that if we look at what young people are doing after the end of their higher education, 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, then we can understand which are the pushing factors that are promoting their entrepreneurship, because they can be unemployed for a certain people, then they get their entrepreneurs, then they quit entrepreneurs, and then they start being inactive also for personal or economic reason, and then they start being entrepreneurs, because a lot of successful entrepreneurs are showing that they are having their entrepreneurs in their life in different steps. So the first entrepreneurship experience is lasting 1 or 2 years. The second one is lasting much more, and then usually with the third entrepreneurship experience, they are very successful. So if we look at these non-linear pathways, we can try to understand how we can support people in being entrepreneurs. And there is this European initiative, maybe you know that, European Graduate Tracking Initiative, that could support us in monitoring, studying what people are doing after the end of higher education in Italy, in Spain, all over Europe, because after the end of their higher education study, they do something somewhere. In Tuscany, we were supporting engineers to go from Italy to go to Baden-Württemberg, but we still don't know if they are still there, if they are working, if they set up their own business, if they came back. So if we monitor what they are doing, and the European Commission is pushing us to do so, we may have some empirical data that can support us in being effective in order to support entrepreneurship for young people. What higher education is doing to support this process, I would say very few things, not always successful. Maybe the most successful activities that we are providing to our students is to support them in the spin-off activities. But again, spin-off are entrepreneurship opportunities where university is part of the new businesses students are going to set up. But again, after 3 years, most of them, a lot of them are just failing. Additional services that higher education is providing, but they are not targeted especially to support entrepreneurship, can be career development services, thesis preparation, international mobility, and internship and training. These are or might be additional activities that we can use in order to support our students for being successful entrepreneurs. The kind of skills we as university higher education can be focused on in order to support entrepreneurship are the ones, most of them are included in the entrepreneurship competence framework from the European Commission, but they are also part of these life skills for life that is also framed by the European Commission. We must provide them the capability to take action, to be innovative, to be creative, to dare what the others cannot dare to do. We must provide them also the capacity not to be afraid of failure, because it's part of your life. Failing is not something that we must be ashamed of, but We must take advantages of mistakes because we are better than the others, because we know what mistake means and what can be the consequences and the effect. And then we can support them in being able to take action. If you have innovative idea, if you have the strong, if you are not afraid of what you are going to do, then take the opportunity to put them into practice. And in order to develop these skills, the literature is telling us that you don't really know, you don't really need to have disciplinary or content curricula, or at least they can be supportive, but they are not really the key solution for this area. And what we are doing with the YESpecialists in Tuscany is to adopt this kind of innovative, I would say, approach. So we are putting together young people that in this beautiful, believe me, it is beautiful, so take the opportunity to visit if you can, Santa Fiora area. In this beautiful area, we are collecting people and we are, supervising, monitoring, a sort of mentoring, as we were saying before, them with one main aim, to put them in connection with others, key actors in the territory, that are mainly their peers, so people who already had previous experiences in being entrepreneurship, but also public authorities, the mayor of Santa Fiora, schools, public employment agencies, and what's we trying, Sabina Stefani that is here is really motivating and in doing this kind of very hard work, I would say, is to put in connection young people, public authorities with local stakeholders, with companies, with businesses, because they are the ones who know what the territory needs, but they are also the ones who can support, monitor, mentor young people in creating their business on the territory. So in the end, what we are expecting to achieve with this kind of, with this kind of activities for youth, we want to develop entrepreneurial skills of these young people we are, Sabina, especially monitoring, supporting, and motivating, so that they can be entrepreneur, but especially they can feel a sort of active participation in developing the community they belong to and the territory where they are living, but also for the productive system. We are the main finding, I would say, is that stakeholders and public authorities, they might gain new services, new ideas, new products, new inspirations from these people, because yes, as you know, young people do have very creative ideas. It's worth to listen to them and to try to help them to put them into practice. And also the productive system, local ecosystem is gaining the potentiality to contribute to the social and economical development of Santa Fiora. And the best would be to go beyond Santa Fiora and reach other regional territories. Thank you very much.
So I will try to give you some brief information about about youth policies in Trentino. So Trentino is this mountainous area in the northeast of Italy, and which are our main goals. So the main goal is to empower young people, so to work with their empowerment. As we said before, we try to take care of this flower, of this rainforest, trying to let the sun go through and to drop by drop to let them grow. Building new opportunities for them, but above all with them. So trying to follow always a bottom-up approach. So we try to promote also their autonomy as far as house, job, and emotions are concerned, and to strengthen their condition in some areas such as life experience, education, and work. And also we have had some experience of co-housing so that they can experience the living of parental home. It can be a strange thing for many of us, but in Italy it's a main theme, the living of parental home. And then to take care and to prevent rather than to face social diseases. So trying to work with the positive face of youth policies. Who is in charge of youth policies in Trentino? We have a cross-thematic and multi-level approach. So there are not only public authorities or public subjects that deal with the themes of youth policies, but also private subjects. So in a kind of subsidiarity. So obviously, youth office is in charge of youth policies in Trentino. That is my office of the Department for Culture and Education of the Autonomous Province of Trento, but also other departments of the province, such as European Social Fund Office, for instance. And then we have a youth desk, Sportello Civico 13, the employment agency, the university, of course, and local and sectorial youth action plans all over the Trentino. And Trentino Sviluppo, that is a private subject, literally translated as Trentino Development. That is a kind of incubator of ideas of young people. So how do we work with entrepreneurship? We have different methods and approaches. Of course, we start to work with the idea, with the theme of entrepreneurship from the formal education. So from the entrepreneurial learning into the curricula, for instance, at secondary school, and above all, as far as vocational schools are concerned. Then, as I said before, another great instrument for the theme of entrepreneurship is the empowerment, trying to raise self-awareness among young people and try to increase their competencies, skills, and attitude. We do that using different tools, project calls for action, assessment, and courses. Then another instrument used above all from the youth desk in the schools, but also by the employment agency, is the supporting by writing the curriculum vitae. That's very important because young people can present themselves in a good, in a better way. Then another, as I said before, the importance to share experiences and to share the professional background. For instance, the partnership with young professionals who can become mentors and models for young entrepreneurs. In Italy, we have a period during the schools that is called alternanza scuola-lavoro, that is education and training combining periods. And it's a really a good experience, I think, and it really fits when it takes into consideration the ambitions, the desires, and the aims of a young people, not when young people are put to make some unskilled labor. Training in informal education and training outside formal education. So, for instance, summer jobs. Hubs for innovative startups and co-working spaces. The private subject I mentioned before, Trentino Startup, Trentino Development, open sometimes some calls in order to improve and to incubate the ideas of young people. For instance, these two calls were very successful, Trentino Startup Valley. So a method that points to develop the entrepreneurship among all the territory, also in the valley, because Trentino is a region, a mountainous region where there are a lot of valleys, very far one from each other, and seed money. Then, of course, all that instruments that deal with the theme of knowledge, so information, guidance, courses, coaching. Another main theme as far as entrepreneurship is concerned is the theme to access to finance. So we have short and long-term loans, grants, microcredit funds, and low tax rates. And then another step in order to achieve the autonomy is to encourage young people to find alternative financing methods, such as crowdfunding and peer-to-peer lending. Strengths. We haven't reinvented the wheel. I mean, there's maybe nothing new of what I'm saying, but I think the best, maybe the major strength in our approach is the proper environment for young entrepreneurship, because Trentino has a long and wide tradition of cooperation. So we have a cooperative system, and in a cooperative system, we offer not only a lot of services, but we try to put at the core of the system people and networking. So the idea of subsidiarity, I have said before, to make public and private sector to work together, to join them. Then, of course, a great effort in order to create opportunities, as Marion, I think, said before, not only at an economic level, but also at a social and cultural level. We have to have a wide panorama, I think, of the theme, and not only on the economic theme. And then, of course, a great job of assessment, an ethical and sustainable thinking. And then, well, the two points are what I said before, the idea of share experiences, practices, and the idea of give them the concrete possibility to try and to make experiences, learning by doing. And so that's it. Okay, thank you.
I can start. So I don't know if I'm the only one who works for Brussels here. It's funny because we are in Brussels. We are far from the reality of the rural areas here. It's a small territory. It's maybe easier to connect. So I'm here to represent YET, Young Entrepreneurs Tomorrow. We have one full-time by the agency, but we are 300 people who work in the agency, but I'm the only one who works on youth entrepreneurship. The YET strategy started in 2016. I put logo because it's important to know that we are in a shifting economy reality here in Brussels. So the main goals of Hub Brussels is to make entrepreneurship more inclusive. So we have 3 target groups, young people, women, and job seekers. So I'm represent the young people, but we have also a strategy to be the coordinator of the ecosystem who work with women. So it's called Women in Business and Job Seekers. So we work with the unemployment services in Brussels. Another goal, very important, is to promote economic transition. So we contribute to the economic transition strategy of Brussels. So we are committed to the economic transition, and you can find the resume, the summary resume on shiftingeconomy.brussels. So we try to transform our service to contribute to the economic transition. The main mission of Brussels are to give information. We have one single access point. It's called 1819 or 1819. It's a cool number, but it's also a website. It's an offer point where the advisors are there to give information to anyone who wants to start the business in Brussels or to grow it, to develop it. So it's a leading information service. We are in contact with all the entrepreneurial ecosystem, financial, accommodation, administration. So we're here to direct the person to the relevant service. Hub, we give personal and collective coaching and other service. We give sectorial advices more in agriculture, urban agriculture, but clustering, acceleration, incubation. We support local company locally, but also want to grow abroad. And a main activity in Hub Brussels is to encourage connections between the ecosystem. So I coordinate the local ecosystem of youth entrepreneurship in Brussels. And we make a recommendation to the government. So according to the Hub mission, the YET mission are clearly the same, but to the young people, we target the young people with the same mission. Mm-hmm. So the challenge is entrepreneurship could be like a dream. So we'd like to give a real image of what entrepreneurship is, to make sure that young people who want to start their own business know what is going to be for them. That it's a lot of work also, but a good image of what is it. Help young people to develop their entrepreneurial skills, of course, and make them aware that it's possible to find someone to good helpers. I think that it's very nice word that YESpecialist is created. So, and also that they can be coached during the whole journey from the idea to the creation. So in my business unit, we are 6 thematic issues. So younger people, women, job seekers, but also digitalization, circular economy, and social entrepreneurship. And we we want to be sure that we can find some good helper for each stage of raising awareness. So we work with an ecosystem who is present on each step of the raising awareness. So the first key step is providing good information about what is entrepreneurship. So it's like info session, testimonies, learning by doing at school, teachers training, this sort. We have a website which lists a lot of organizations. We can find it through searching engine. The second stage is persuasion desirability. So when the audience is already aware of what is entrepreneurship, the idea is to increase the desirability to take action. So for who has an idea but doesn't dare to develop the projects, we provide some other kind of action activities. It's more a moment of inspiration, exchange between peers, networking. The third stage is to learn. So to acquire a lot of knowledge, know-how, feedback in order to minimize the risk. And at that moment, I think the young people are ready to go to guidance programs to experiment via incubator. So during the incubator, we give tools, knowledge, mentoring, community workshops, and co-working. But it's more targeted to students, young graduated of alumni. The idea is to give them all the tools to know what is it, even if they start later, is to know that there an ecosystem which is there for them. I wanted to show you the ecosystem, just to show that on the entrepreneurial journey, there are a lot of associations. They are active at each level of school, and after also to help to coach people who has an idea. And my job is to put them together. So I bring them twice a year together. But we do also communication, of course, because a challenge is to give a way for them to find who is the good one to help them, of the teacher, of course, because for the raising awareness at schools, we try to target the teacher. And so we have a website, social media, and we give visibility, and we do also a lot of events together. Yes, we have a question about a sustained ecosystem and youth entrepreneurship. As I said, we are in the strategy shifting economy at Brussels, so everything is related to people, planet, participation, and profit, of course. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very interesting for to listen to you all. The clock is ticking, and we have time for 2 quick questions. Does the audience have any questions to these speakers? Yes,
Thank you. I'm Sara, Executive Secretary of Don Bosco International. And I have a question about social economy. It's a topic that it's very kind of popular here in Brussels and for the European institutions. And what is good about social economy, it's they see in the young generation really like a driven for this kind of economy and a switch in the model, because young people are usually more sensitive to do a kind of entrepreneurship that is not just a focus on profit, but it does something good for the society. So do you see the same among your young people, among your projects, and which are the perspectives in this field that you think? Thank you.
So who do you want to ask this to, or?
It's an open question.
Okay, please.
I just say that I can just say that it's true that young people want to create, to have a positive impact, and it's also a condition to be guided by our incubator. So they have no choice.
Yes, I've spoken before about ethical and sustainable thinking, and that's what you mean. They try to begin their path to entrepreneurship, but not to have a profit at all costs, but trying to be sustainable towards the environment, towards the social life, and they also engaged in the voluntary field. So I think they're combined.
Yes, I totally agree, and this is also the reason why we at university are investing a lot of time and resources in researching on third economic organizations. And we also have an idea, this is just to launch it because we started working at that, to create a Silicon Valley of third sector organization from Florence in the region, and then hopefully also on a national level, because they are getting a lot of our students being employed, managers, but also voluntary.
And when it comes to young farmers, there's clearly a strong aspiration to be at the core of social economy, to be as sustainable as they can be. And recently, one of our Slovak members even told me that in each farm there is social economy, because you often have generations collaborating. You often have as well, in those rural areas that are the most depopulated, often the farms are the last economic activity, so the last places of employment. There are also many initiatives across Europe with farmers welcoming dependent people to their farm, where they can stay, where they can be in touch with the environment that they work with, also animals, a lot of therapy with animals. So you do have many great examples, and I must say it's very inspiring to work with young farmers that want to act every day like this for their territory.
Thank you for your question. Another question? Yes, Larry.
Yes, a question for Marion. You spoke about the difficulty of succession, of passing on farms as the farmers get old. And I'm just wondering, is there a risk then that these small farms will be bought by big agriculture, and that there will be more and more consolidation and more industrial agriculture? And also, what are your thoughts about the common agricultural policy? Is there any hope that it will be reformed and be more favorable for regenerative agriculture?
Well, do we have 4 hours? No, for the first question, so there is already land consolidation at play. So what we say as CIJA most of the time is we are really at a turnover for agriculture. What we are defending is a human-driven agriculture. Unfortunately, in order to make it in this sector right now, having a small piece of land to which you need to really get very intense on that piece of land this is also not a model that is necessarily always sustainable. So what we're seeing right now in the statistics is that in general, young farmers have bigger farms, and it is a direct result of consolidation, because you do have many regions where you don't have anyone to take over the farm. And then there's also the pressure on competition on farmland, which is a very important topic for us, where you do have a lot of investors from outside of agriculture that see, for example, into the production of energy a big investing opportunity. They also see, we are now with the climate mitigation capacity of agriculture, we're going to develop carbon farming with carbon removal certifications. We already see investors from outside the sector that come in, buy farmland in order to then employ someone to work on that land for them. But this does not profit to young farmers. This does not profit to the rural communities, nor the society in general. This is indeed one of the big issues that we have. When it comes to the CAP, so the issue that we have identified with the CAP for ourselves is simply that the social aspect of it is very underdeveloped, because many of what I quoted in terms of farm succession, retirement policy, but also education, cooperation networks, it is mostly at national, regional, local level that we can develop that. So what we want to see is better consistency between that EU strategy that we have for agriculture and the different initiatives and policies that you would then have at national and local level. This is the big challenge for us in CIJA. In terms of, the big question in agriculture today is, you profit by selling private goods. What about the public goods that you are producing? How do we remunerate them? Do we remunerate them from the market now? No. There is no remuneration coming from the market except for some models like organic farming, although there too, the prices are not really on a good path. But for example, if someone does agroforestry on the farm, you will not find in the supermarket a product with a label agroforestry or intercropping or crop rotation. I know those concepts seem probably very far for some of you, but when you do those practices, you are investing a lot of time, energy, and money into them, and you won't have a return on them. So we want the CAP to also investigate how we improve that, and how we can better remunerate that action, and how also with the CAP we can leverage private investments, because we do know that public funds are not enough in order to do the sustainable transition of agriculture. We need the private funds, we need some risk management strategies, and we need to have knowledge reservoirs and cooperation between farmers. So that would be in a nutshell the challenges for the CAP.
Thank you very much. Looking at the clock, I want to end this roundtable discussion with one quick question, and I only want a yes or a no from you. Did you see any difference since the COVID-19 outbreak? Have you noticed in your region or country that young people are more interested in moving to rural areas? Just a yes or a no. Marion?
Yes, but for how long?
For how long? Yes. Okay.
Yes, somehow, yes.
Yes.
Can you repeat? Move to rural?
Yes.
No.
No.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you and give a hand to 4 experts here, and we could have used a whole day, I think, in the discussions, but this is an engaging topic we can conclude with. So thank you very much. Oh. So I think it is the time to conclude, actually. We want to thank you all for your participation. Thank you to all speakers, to all participants, both here in Brussels and those who are connected to us digitally. We are, if this is working, then it would be great. We will keep watering the Entrecom flower. And I think it is needed. We all need it. Also the adults. It's not only about young people, but the young people, they are our green entrepreneurs for the future. And we should do everything we have in our capability to empower the youth. We are going to gather the young people, the young participants in our, why isn't it working? Yes. Here you can see that we are calling all our young participants in the YESpecialist project to connect with each other on the 16th of March. We want to give them a platform on Zoom. And we are also discussing a summer camp for young entrepreneurs, which we are trying to get that done for the first in summer 2024, and we would like to have that as a yearly way of meeting each other as the regions. So this should be a bottom-up approach, summer camp or youth exchange. And last but not least, I want to end with the key messages from those who are the main participants in our project. The young people, they ask for, listen to us, your young citizens. Let us explore the world. So don't keep them all the time near you. They should explore the world, but then we hope they come back to us in the rural areas. They also tell us that the rural lifestyle, that is the competitive advantage. The mountains, the rural outdoor living, there are so many good things in rural areas, but it is important that you are good in the storytelling, that you're not all the time complaining about bad transport, other conditions that maybe are a bit difficult. No. Focus on the good rural lifestyle. They want us to involve them in the development of new ideas for their businesses, for local communities, make local funding available for young entrepreneurs, and affordable rentals for young entrepreneurs is also important. Establish a local network that empowers young people, show the opportunities, show what is around them when they grow up in the rural area, while they go to school, show them your community and help them blooming. So these are the words that are the most important words, actually. It is from the young people. I want to thank you all and keep in touch. Please have a look at our website. There are lots of interesting attachments here and videos, especially. So take a look at the videos. It is all from concrete activities that we have been running. So thank you for today and hope to see you again.
Please stay and have a drink with us.
Tomorrow we will take. Okay. Shall we take a partner?
We could do one today and one tomorrow. Two backgrounds. We could do